If you are a father who's been busting your butt, burning through a paycheck, and doing everything possible just to stay involved in your children's lives, then you need to hear this. First off, you are doing the right thing. You are doing more than enough in a system that doesn't care if you're even trying. Because when people talk about child support, they love to throw out terms like income, overnights, formulas, but they're not talking about what it takes to make those overnights happen. Especially when you work a demanding schedule, when you live far away, especially when you have to travel like your life depends on it, just to keep showing up for your kids. And that's where the problem starts. See, system counts the overnights, but it leaves out everything else. The system counts the paycheck, but not the gas it takes to fill up your tank. The system counts the child living at home, but not the father on a plane flying to see them. And if you're a father doing everything you can to stay connected, you already know what that feels like. You know what it feels like to be tired, stretched thin, and still show up anyway. You know what it's like to love your children enough to make sacrifices other people will never see. You know what it is to keep pushing your body when it's telling you to stop, and your bank account is telling you the exact same thing. And you know what it feels like when all that effort gets reduced to a number on a spreadsheet like none of it matters. It's not fair, and that barely scratches the surface. Some fathers are not present. They're driving through the night. They're flying across states. They're sleeping in hotels. They're missing meals. They're spending money that they don't have just to stay present in their kids' lives. And after all that, they still get treated like they're not doing enough. Nobody should feel that way, especially not fathers who would literally do anything for their children. Because being a good father should not feel financially impossible just because the system's only looking at one side of the story. And what makes it worse is sometimes the more a father does, the more it feels like he's getting punished. If a man gets his act together after hitting rock bottom, let's say he finally gets a job, finally starts making money, he's trying to build some stability. The system acts like the children's circumstances have changed just because the father's income has. Well, that's not always true. Just because he worked hard to get that promotion doesn't mean the other parent needs to eat Wagyu beef when there's already ribeyes in the freezer. But because it feels like progress, he gets penalized. It's not always that the dad doesn't want to provide or because he's trying to dodge his responsibility. Unfortunately, there are some men like that. It feels like every time he tries to do better, the system reaches deeper into his pocket and somehow says it's fair. It's not. And before somebody twists it into something that's not, let me say something clearly. I'm not saying fathers should not pay child support. I'm not saying children should go unsupported. I am saying there is a difference between supporting your children and pretending like the cost of travel isn't important and somehow it's free. Heck, I even had to buy clothes for when my kids would come visit. There were no bags with clothes packed for the weekend. Initially, the child support I was providing was intentionally not going towards anything that involved me. And that's just the reality. That frustration wears on a man. You can only keep giving and giving for so long before it starts messing with your head. You start asking yourself, why does it feel like every step forward costs twice as much? You begin to question how you're supposed to keep showing up when the funds continue to deplete, the miles continue to accrue, and no one appears to care that you're taking it all on. That's the silent part men don't talk about. Because when you're the one trying to do right, trying to stay present, to keep your word, it gets tiring. Every part of the system seems to care only about the money and not about the man making it. It feels like nobody is asking how much it costs you to keep showing up. Nobody's asking what it does to you when you're stretched thin and still expected to give more. Nobody's asking you what it feels like to carry the weight and then be told that you're not carrying enough. That can take a toll on a father in ways people don't always see. It's not just a financial pressure. It's the mental pressure, the emotional. It's the pressure trying to stay steady when everything around you feels unstable. And then there are some fathers who move away. Most of them are not trying to disappear. They're moving because they're trying to build a better life and provide more opportunities for their children. That's not a selfish move. That's a sacrifice. That is them taking responsibility. That is a father trying to build a future where he can give more and provide more for his kids. And when a father does that, the system too often reads that distance as abandonment. It looks at the miles apart and acts like the man just up and left. But sometimes distance is the price of growth. Sometimes fathers need to move away to get a better job or to gain more stability. They're fighting to build a better life for their kids and for themselves. He shouldn't be labeled as a deadbeat dad who just ran off. And just because a father decided to move away doesn't mean he decided to walk away. A move does not erase a relationship or the work it takes to still be a father when the miles get longer. If anything, the move exposes exactly who's trying and who's giving up. There's a difference between a man building a future and a man walking away from one. In many states, child support calculations just include basic related expenses, and the visitation travel is not always accounted for. So is the system really supporting the child's best interest and relationship with the father? I will even include mothers when the situation is reversed, because I'm not sure the system does. Real fatherhood is not a spreadsheet with some made-up formula. Real fatherhood means waking up before sunrise, driving through terrible weather, and showing your children that distance doesn't equal abandonment. It looks like being tired and broke and still making that trip anyways. It's a man running on fumes and still finding a way to be there for his child because he knows they're worth it. And when a father has limited time with his kids, he's not just showing up. He's trying to make every minute count. Packing the day is full. He's trying to make a moment or a memory with them because he already knows the clock is ticking. That's what fathers do. We overcompensate because we know our time is short. We try to make Saturday feel like the whole week. We try to put everything into one day, hoping our kids remember us when we're not around. And the hard part is, fathers are doing that knowing what happens the second the visit ends and the child goes back with the other parent. The energy shifts, and the father starts all over again just to stay present in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, he buys the tickets, he pays for those outings, he covers the meals, he picks up little things to make the day special. And he does that because he loves his kids, and because he knows he has to fight harder for the memories, but then he still gets treated like the guy who's not doing enough. It's so annoying, because now he's not just bearing the weight of being away, he's shouldering the burden of trying to make up for being away. And the system wants to act like real fatherhood is something you can measure fairly with a formula. But there's nothing fair about pretending travel doesn't cost anything. There's nothing fair about pretending sacrifice doesn't matter. There's nothing fair about acting like the father who keeps showing up from a distance is the same as a man who's not trying at all. That's where the system overlooks the human aspect. It's a lazy system trying to reduce something messy and painful into some neat little answer. It's not going to happen. So if you want to talk about fairness and child support, let's talk about the whole thing. Let's talk about the miles. Let's count the gas. Let's count the flights, the hotel rooms. Let's count the lost work days. Let's count the man who's driving half the night just to make sure he's there for his kid in the morning. Because if the system's going to demand financial responsibility, then it should also respect the cost of a committed father. And if a father is traveling consistently, relocating strategically, and fighting to stay present in his child's lives, that effort should be recognized as part of the support and not just ignored. And I can already hear somebody say, what about the mother's side? What about her expenses? What about the child's basic needs? Well, those are all fair questions, but none of those questions cancel out the point that I'm trying to make. Yes, a child still needs support. A mother still has expenses. The issue is not whether the support should exist. The issue is whether the system is honest about the full cost of keeping a father involved, especially when the distance is working against him. And that is exactly why this matters. How can a system be honest and fair when it's not considering the whole situation? It's not seeing the father who's trying. It's not seeing the sacrifice behind the effort. It's not seeing the long drives, the early flights, the missed shifts, the hotel stays, or the mental toll it's taking. Again, at no point am I saying fathers should not pay child support. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm not asking for some free pass. I don't have a horse in the race anymore. My older boys who I was paying support for, they're 18 now, they just graduated high school. I'm asking for the fairness of the rest of the dads who are in the same situation I was in. I'm asking for a system that does not settle for some convenient number, but accounts for the full picture before claiming that as justice. Because real life's not this neat thing you go through. Real fatherhood certainly isn't either. Real sacrifice doesn't fit neatly into a formula. And through all of it, God still sees the sacrifice, the motive, and the heart behind what you're doing. God sees a father who's tired and still showing up. God sees a father who's frustrated and still trying. God sees a father who's being stretched thin and still keeping his word. He sees a father who's making hard decisions, not because he's selfish, but because he's trying to build something better for his children. God sees a father who's carrying all of this and still choosing to love his kids consistently. And if nobody else will say it, I'll say it. Great job. Don't give up. Because sometimes the hardest seasons are the ones that prove what kind of man you really are. Sometimes the pressure is what reveals the faithfulness. And sometimes what you think might break you is the very thing God is using to shape you. Sometimes I struggle to believe this myself. But I still believe someday your kids will see it. They'll see the miles. They'll see the sacrifice. They'll see the times you showed up when it's easier not to. And they'll understand that you're not just paying money. You are paying the price to be present. And that matters. It matters to your children. It matters to God. And even when the system dismisses it, God is right there by your side walking with you. Every setback's a setup. God doesn't waste the hard seasons.